I was recently part of a conversation which was a little provocative, got into some of the issues we all struggle with and deal with. One person asked the question, a person who had a lot of bitterness and anger for many good reasons in their lives, a lot of trauma, and posed this question. She said, is there more hate or love in this world? And the debate went back and forth. I mean, I don't know if we have statistics on the matter. I personally would like to believe that we have more love in the world than hate. But I guess some people in their own hearts, on their own lives, have a lot more negative energy than positive energy. Because that's really what it came down to. How are we going to gauge 8 billion people on this earth? But individually, we went around the little group that was discussing this topic, and it came down to this, that some people, yes, they said, my life, my mind, my heart is filled with much more negative stuff than positive stuff. I don't know how about you. I mean, I like to believe again about myself that I have much more positive energy and love than I do resentments. But I can understand in life, look, life beats up people. Some of us grew up in very unhealthy homes, dysfunctional homes, not due to our fault at all, even if we blame ourselves. And we built up a lot of anger and resentment and bitterness and senses of sense of lack of entitlement that has to, in some way, have a profound impact on our lives. So, and I'm not here to judge, obviously, but do we want to remain in that place? Others, going the other side of the spectrum, extreme, lived beautiful lives, privileged lives, gifted with love and nurturing and functionality, helping us build confidence and self-esteem. And then most of us are somewhere on that spectrum in between. Yes, but I have met enough people to tell you that there are people who suffer with struggling with demons on an ongoing basis. Again, not due to their own fault. I've always made it my mission and my objective is to help people get rid of some of those demons, or at least minimize them, and allow the angels, our better angels, to emerge. So this topic that we're addressing right now is not just a topic in a vacuum, dealing with, especially when you see tragedy that took place in Israel, in northern Israel, in Miran, just over a week ago. And that brings out, again, the best in some people and the worst in others. We get very angry at God, at each other, at others. And it really comes down to, what are we made of? In other words, are we wired a certain way? As they say, once how your neurons are fired, that's how they get wired. If our neurons were fired in negative ways due to our own personal grievances and anger and abuse or hurt, are we stuck in that place? And if our neurons were fired and they delivered positive experiences in life, especially in those formative years of our childhood, is that our destiny? Can we do anything about it? Well, as you can imagine, my answer is going to be unequivocally yes, we can do something about it. We're not stuck. We are fluid, we're mobile, we are constantly in flux. That is the very nature of nature, the very nature of our seasons, that there's no such thing as just one season. From summer we go to fall, autumn, and autumn takes us into winter, and winter into spring, and then again into summer. And the same is true in our own personal lives. There's no such thing as being in one mood or one temperament. If we allow ourselves, life is all about movement. Now, sometimes we impose upon ourselves, or life events, circumstances impose themselves upon us, and we become, for lack of a better word, couch potatoes. And I don't just mean that in the literal sense. I mean that we become stuck. This is who I am right now. And then we convince ourselves that there's no room for change. There's no room for hope. There's no room for getting out of your own way. But that is not the case. And I will say this in a very straightforward, without any ambiguity. There are some things that are not black and white. Most things in life are quite gray and have many different variations. But this I will say without question. The more you're connected to your soul, the more love will exist in your life. It's as simple as that. It's simply said, it's harder to do, much harder to do. But let me explain why I'm saying that. When we look at the material world and our material lives, which is very much about a very tangible, empirical reality, so yes, there we can convince ourselves, even though it's not true there as well, that there's a certain element of static nature. But when we look beneath the surface, we all know, especially today in modern physics, that the world is pulsating with energy all the time. Constantly pulsating. There's no such thing as an inanimate entity. Everything has pulsating atoms and subatomic particles, whether we see it or we don't see it. How much more so in the spiritual realm? In the spiritual realm, there's constant movement, constant energy. Things are always in flux. And as such, the more you get in touch with that, the more change is possible. And you're never stuck in your ways. So even as the neurons get wired, and even as one may have experienced different difficulties in life, that's not necessarily, the status quo is not defines the rest of your life. And it's all about connecting to the soul. So when we make the expression in Ecclesiastes, the sad, skeptical, cynical expression that states a generation comes, a generation goes, and there's nothing new under the sun, correct. The more things change, the more they stay the same, and all the other lines similar to that. But above the sun, which here is figurative for going into a place that is not defined by the regular routines and patterns, we have within us literally an infinite reservoir of energy and love, which we'll talk about in a moment, that can transform any aspect of your life. So even if you have good reason to have anger and be bitter and to be resentful and just have a negative attitude, there are deeper dimensions within you that if you dig there, even if you have good reason, if you don't have good reason, then for sure, but even if you do, to dig deeper and find beautiful reservoirs and resources and treasures are called love. The second point, love and soul, that when you connect to the soulfulness within you, in general, you transcend circumstances. And finally, the third point is that soulfulness is essentially the root of all love, because it means you transcend the material differences of time and space that separate us, self-interest. Love is an experience, a celebration of your soul. And a celebration of your soul is loving. That's the natural state we are all in. For 9 months, each of us spent 24/7 all the time in our mother's wombs, completely nurtured, protected, sheltered, loved. That's what love is, an embrace, submerged in the embryonic fluids. Even if, God forbid, your mother was a dysfunctional person, but in some mysterious way, God protects you in that womb. Now, of course, a mother can do destructive things. I'm not denying that. But in general, we come out of the womb, and again, we expect, and in a healthy situation, parents will continue to provide that nurturing, that love, that healthy attachment, which builds the confidence we need as we grow through life. If in some way that was impeded, or in some way that was withheld, deliberately or not deliberately by parents for whatever reason, I'm not justifying it, it's like a flower that is thirsty for water, thirsty for love, thirsty for healthy attachment. So how do we compensate for that? We compensate by becoming loving. Because as you give love, you receive love. It's part of loving yourself. So what it comes down to is that the best way to fight hate, the best way to fight negative energy is to bring in positive energy. Many people say, no, first let me get rid of all the reasons I'm resentful and angry and have grievances and all that. Let me have everybody ask me for forgiveness, make amends and so on. Well, first of all, good luck. If you can get that done, great. Absolutely. Every person who's been hurt deserves to be apologized to, deserves to be compensated, deserves to amends to be made to that person. Every person who has hurt someone owes it to ask for forgiveness and correct and make amends and do whatever it takes to rebuild a relationship. But we're talking about ourselves. Let's say that does not happen for whatever reason. You need to begin building your own life, and you build your life by giving love. It's as simple as that. You say, I'm not in the mood, I'm angry, I have many reasons not to. Still, It's like any type of exercise that you may not like to do, but it's the most important and healthy thing for you. So how do you bring more love into our lives? By giving love. So when you see something negative, when you see something positive happen, for sure. But even when something negative happens, you'll see the healthiest people become more loving. They become kinder. You'll say, 1 second, they have every reason to be upset now, to be angry. And yet you'll see a certain kindness and goodness comes out of them. And that them should and could be us, each one of us. Yes, are we tempted to not be that way? Are we tempted to withdraw, to be more bitter, to be angry? Of course. But when you don't allow yourself to succumb to that, and you allow the love within you to be present and to emerge, you cannot imagine how much healing will come from that. So as you look around the world around us, where there's a lot of polarization, I would even say the word hatred, divisiveness, whether it's in the realm of politics or in other realms. There's a lot of beauty too, I'm not denying that. And then sometimes tragedy strikes. We have all the reasons to turn negative, to turn gloomy, despondent, and so on. The best response and the healthiest response is to bring more love into the world. I know it can sound like a cliche, but I'm talking really on a personal, psychological, and emotional level. There's nothing healthy. Love is water. Would you deprive your flowers of water because you're in a bad mood? Well, I know some people may, but think about it. Would you deprive yourself or others of very sustenance, oxygen, because of whatever you're going through? That's how we have to look at it. And love in that sense is the most powerful transcendent energy. Yes, it's about soulfulness. In the words of the Tanya, classic mystical text, it's actually more mystical, more psychological and mystical, but it has a lot of blends mysticism and psychology. The Rabbi Shneur Zalman writes in chapter 32, which corresponds to the Hebrew number Lev, which means heart, and also love is pronounced that way, 32. He says these words. He says, as long as a person makes their body and their material lives more important than their spiritual lives, they cannot truly love one another. It's when you make your soul prominent, dominant, and prominent, and the body's secondary, that's when love emerges. Which is simple formula goes like this. Materialism divides, spirituality unites. The more soulful you become, the more connected you become with others, even if they're different than you. Because on the soul's level, first of all, the soul is completely confident and does not need to take away anything from you for it to be successful. Secondly, the soul is always looking for growth. It's looking for diversity. It's looking to broaden its horizons. You see, at the end of the day, the reason many people turn unloving, turn inward, and angry, it's not necessarily because they don't have love in them. There's all kinds of reasons, psychological. First of all, let's deal with insecurity. Insecurity, when people are insecure, they generally are much more negative attitude to things. Because they feel, first of all, maybe they've been deprived. Why is this person getting something and I'm not? All the negative vices of our feelings all come out when you're insecure. When you're very secure, you feel comfortable. So someone got in front of me in the line, big thing. Somebody passed me cut me off in traffic. So what? If you're secure within, you don't see these events as suddenly undermining and challenging your very existence. But when you're not, any little thing becomes a whole grievance. I've been slighted. You'll see the most secure people, you can't insult so easily. Yes, you may hurt someone even like that, but you can't insult because you can't take away the fundamental self-confidence and self-esteem that they have. It's hard for someone who's insecure to even understand that because they think everyone else is like them. So insecurity is number one. I see many times the bitterness, the anger coming from people who've been hurt. So that's number two, being hurt. It sometimes goes hand in hand with insecurity, being hurt, feeling deprived, feeling that I deserve better, feeling anger. Number three, anger. Anger at someone that hurt you. Anger is a very powerful emotion, and it clouds our ability to really be loving because things trigger your anger, and then you're just not in a giving mood. And I can go on through the list, but they all come down to one thing. A deprivation of lack of receiving love has created an insecurity and an anger and being hurt and all other factors that cause a person to not want to give. But giving is the nature of who we really are. So what you're really doing is undermining yourself due to the fact that you've been hurt. So the way to respond to that is to bring back your soul to the surface. On the soul level, there is no such thing as insecurity, because every soul is unique. Every soul has everything it needs. It's indispensable. If you were able to be in touch with that, that would be the greatest preemptive and preventive medicine to the anger, to the wrath, to all those other negative feelings that we so get caught up in. So, call me dreamer, but I really believe that this world is ready for and can definitely achieve a level of love that's unprecedented. It all begins with an individual. We don't need to look at 8 billion people or even 1 million people or 1,000 people. It's you and I. And you and I begin to generate. We activate that soul's engine within us and become more loving and kind. That doesn't mean that you overlook and you just let people step on you. That love does not mean that at all. It's coming from strength, not from weakness, not from pleasing someone or making people think that people should be supportive of you, but rather coming from an inner strength. Generate that, then it creates a ripple effect in your immediate sphere of influence, and that has a continuing effect. So it begins with you and I right now. Something ticks you off, yes, deal with it, process it, but the end result should be one that becomes a more loving, a more kind approach. For people who have hurt you, I am not suggesting turning the other cheek and just ignoring it. Sometimes you need to avoid them, but don't let anger start eating you up. Don't let vengeance, getting even, become the force that drives your life. Don't let them occupy you in that fashion. If need be, if they're a destructive influence, or in any ways, so get out of the line of fire, but find people that you can be loving and kind with. Don't let that control you. So much of our lives are controlled by what someone said, what someone did. Now, I'm not suggesting it's easy. And I'm not suggesting it's easy, especially if one has experienced such deprivation from childhood. But it's doable. That's the key. And we need each other, and we need to create, I would like to call it a revolution of goodness and love. Yeah, a revolution. And it begins with you and I. It begins with starting to do something today that's a loving gesture. We finish this, get on your text, get this Instagram, maybe pass this on to someone. Maybe we can create a movement. And it could reach 8 billion people. Why not? But it begins with you and I. And the more we share every day, find a way to share something that's nice with another person. A loving, a heartwarming message, a heartwarming thought. You can't find your own, I'm sure you can find something you can share. It's so easy to do. So you feel aggrieved, you feel hurt. So maybe increase in something that's loving and kind to a person that deserves it. You'll be surprised at the results. Because as you exercise that muscle called love within your soul, the muscle gets stronger, and it makes you stronger, more confident, and more secure. That's the call of the hour in so many ways. That's the way we battle divisiveness, we battle hate, we battle discrimination, every form of injustice that human beings perpetrate on each other. And it's completely doable. Try it out. Begin. And let's share this. Let's share this with another. Pay it forward. No doubt that if we do it right, it'll catch on because it's natural to us. Love is more natural to us than hate. The soul is more natural to us than our bodies, though we're much more familiar with our bodies. So become more soulful, become more loving, become more transcendent, and let us join together and really create this revolution. We are all diverse, but we are all in harmony. And that harmony within diversity is what creates the real magic. Be blessed. Let us unite in this cause and stay healthy God bless you all. Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Live. Check us out at meaningfullife.com. Please share, like, pass on. Questions, conversation. This is what I thrive on. This is what we at the Meaningful Life Center thrive on. So please give us your suggestions, your thoughts. Everything is welcome. Be well.